In the cold winter days of 1547, a tense expectation filled the corridors of Whitehall Palace. Henry VIII, once the symbol of England's strength and might, was visibly fading. His body, swollen to nearly 180 kilograms, gave off an unbearable stench. His legs were eaten away by ulcers so deep the bone showed through. Courtiers, clutching scented handkerchiefs to their noses, hurried to leave the rooms where the king, stripped of his former power, was barely clinging to life. 30 years earlier, this man had been the embodiment of power. Young, athletic, charismatic. All of Europe knew him, and he took pride in symbolizing England's revival. But by January 1547, illnesses had ravaged not only his body, but also his mind. Physicians used bloodletting, onion compresses, powders made from human bones, and opium, but nothing helped. Gout, diabetes, infections. They all drained the monarch day by day. With each passing day, Henry's character grew increasingly unpredictable. He was haunted by delirious visions, calling for his dead wives and muttering the names of executed enemies. In rare lucid moments, he barely managed to hold a pen as he rewrote his will, trying to control England's fate, even from beyond the grave. His 9-year-old son, Edward, born to Jane Seymour, had become the center of a fierce struggle between the Catholic faction, led by the Duke of Norfolk, and the Protestants supported by the boy's uncle, Edward Seymour. On January 27, 1547, the king suffered a severe attack that left his right side paralyzed, likely a stroke. Desperate, the doctors tried to revive him with hot irons and bitter medicinal brews, but all efforts were in vain. Archbishop Thomas Cranmer strictly controlled access to the royal chambers, fully aware that premature rumors of the king's death could trigger chaos or even foreign invasion. In the early morning of January 28th, before dawn, Henry VIII died. His final act was a faint squeeze of Cranmer's hand when asked if he placed his faith in Christ. The official cause of death was listed as natural causes, but modern physicians believe it was a combination of heart failure, sepsis, and complications from diabetes. After his death, a critical phase began. For 3 days the court kept the news secret, giving Edward Seymour time to consolidate power, seize the fortresses, take control of the army, and become Lord Protector. By the time the funeral bells finally tolled, the power struggle had already ended. Meanwhile, Henry's body continued to decompose at an alarming rate. Embalmers, who removed his internal organs and filled the cavities with fragrant herbs, were shocked at the state of his liver and heart. The custom-made coffin split open during the lying in state as gases built up inside. Servants hurried to clean up the aftermath to maintain a semblance of order. On February 16th, the massive funeral procession set out for Windsor. Crowds lined the streets to watch the king's final journey. Effigies on the wagons showed him in his prime, not the disease-ravaged monster he had become. He was buried next to Jane Seymour, the only wife who had given him a son, and never fell from his favor. Portraits by Hans Holbein and other artists immortalized the king as a confident, powerful ruler. That image survived for centuries, though the reality of his final years was very different. His will clearly set the succession. After Edward, the throne would pass to Mary, daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and then to Elizabeth, daughter of Anne Boleyn. Though briefly disrupted by the reign of Jane Grey, in the end, the succession followed Henry's wishes. After his death, the country entered a period of profound change. Absolute monarchy weakened, giving way to more collective governance. Edward Seymour, lacking Henry's charisma, relied on advisers and took the first steps toward England's constitutional development. Henry's illnesses still spark debate today. Theories range from syphilis to MacLeod syndrome to injuries from jousting tournaments. Among his personal belongings were found a portrait of Jane Seymour, a lock of Elizabeth of York's hair, and little Elizabeth's prayer book, reminders of the personal side that courtiers rarely saw. The king's death became a catalyst. Religious reforms accelerated, the economy plunged into crisis, and mass sales of monastic lands began. Even the king's body became a symbol. Just as the ulcers on his legs required radical treatment, so too did the nation need cleansing and change. Internationally, reactions were mixed. French King Francis I expressed sincere condolences, though he also saw an opportunity to maneuver. Emperor Charles V, nephew of Catherine of Aragon, considered the possibility of alliance or even invasion. Even the Pope, who had once excommunicated Henry, ordered a mass for his soul, a gesture reflecting the complexity of their relationship. Inside the palace, the atmosphere changed as well. The rooms where the king had spent his final agonizing weeks were quickly filled with rumors of strange sounds and cold spots. Young Edward VI refused to sleep in his father's chamber, demanding new quarters. For the courtiers, it was a psychological blow. The man whose whims had shaped their lives was suddenly gone, leaving a vacuum. Even the doctors who had failed to save the king feared for their futures. Some quickly found new patrons, others were left behind. The doctors who had attended the king to the end faced scrutiny. Had they perhaps hastened his death? Archives show that the treatments used in his final days included everything from live pigeons cut in half and applied to ulcers to gold ground into powder. Interestingly, the opening of Henry's tomb in the 19th century confirmed many details. An enormous skeleton showing severe joint wear and serious infections. Scientists estimate that at the time of death, his weight may have reached about 180 kilograms, with a waist exceeding 125 centimeters. The king who once planned to build a monumental tomb with 40 bronze figures and an equestrian statue was never immortalized as he wished. The project was halted due to lack of funds, and the bronze was later melted down during the civil wars. This is perhaps one of the bitterest ironies in the story of a man who feared being forgotten more than anything. The death of Henry VIII is not just a story of a body ravaged by disease. It is a story of power that could not shield him from aging and death, of a man who held all of England in fear, yet in the final moment proved as mortal as any of his subjects. Perhaps only then did he truly become close to his people.